So we live in a time of fake news or just, bombarded with information, and it seems like almost impossible to parse it all out and figure out what is true, what is false. As someone who has a scientific mind, how can you advise people to more clearly see the world?
I think part of it is people will overgeneralize that media is not trustworthy without recognizing that there's a vast array of trustworthiness among different media outlets or even within media outlets for certain reporters. And people need to be more discerning in their news consumption habits and in trying to get who is trustworthy. And that can be really hard to tell. I don't necessarily have the greatest advice on how to do that, but because, there will be subjects that I'm an expert in and I see people reporting in these big publications and I know that's wrong, but then I read the next article from them about something I don't really know that much about and then I trust it entirely. And so you can't necessarily be sure of when you're getting, whatever is served up to you that is correct. I don't know the solution to this except to say that there are some better publications out there that have a decent track record that you can at least stick with those. You're probably going to be given a better diet than a lot of the podcasters out there. But that isn't to say that some podcasters aren't great as well. So it really depends, but I can't answer that question too clearly. So
No, thank you.
it's a battle out there.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm finding myself, a lot of the COVID reporting, I was very credulous. I didn't write that much about it. It was mostly just reading it. And I just finished David Zweig's book, An Abundance of Caution, about the disaster of the COVID school shutdowns and how they were based on just sham science. And they were all harms with almost no benefits. And at the time, I didn't give it a lot of thought. I just sort of trust the experts and interviewed Tony Fauci, countless times, and he seemed like a great guy. But, ultimately, I think that, he was so foundational and fundamental to the HIV research movement for 40 years. But on COVID, he was kind of off the money in a lot of things. I don't think he really acknowledged how powerful an authority he was just by recommending things. He'd say, well, I only recommended these things at schools we showed is shut down or that now we use masks. I never said you had to. Yeah, but you knew that people listened to you and that people would lionize you that I have a pair of socks with his face on them. There's a bobblehead with him. He had become this cultural icon who was beyond question. And that's a serious problem when we ascribe, a deity status to some sort of authority figure. It means, that we conceive them as doing no wrong. But when they do, that means we don't notice. And the people who do get into that same conflict, with being told, don't trust your eyes, never question Tony Fauci. And that's, kind of idol worship that you'll see in the flip side. The extreme on the flip side is everything that Donald Trump says is correct. And yes, indeed, that guy, Mr. Garcia, does have MS-13 written on his knuckles.